Hello, and welcome to another edition of What's Moving in the Forex Market, brought to you by myself, Kurt Capra, and Pristine Trading. Please keep in mind that all comments are for educational purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. And as a reminder, Pristine offers a series of free webinars throughout every week. Here's a list of our upcoming webinars that we have on the schedule for this week, and you can check out www.pristine.com for the full schedule and any additional webinars in the coming week. So let's take a look at where things are. As always, starting in the upper left with Euro-US dollar, we can see that this pair has experienced a rather significant retracement, and as we discussed in a previous video, there was a break of support. So this pair is displaying weakness on the daily chart and could conceivably come further down into lower support levels. However, it is holding at this 1.0850 area. As you can see, it rallied up off of that level in the last couple days, and we'll see if this forms a lower high, say up in this area here, or can it retrace even higher. We'll have to see how things play out, but any kind of topping tail or bearish reversal would indicate that supply is increasing and potentially signal that a move lower is imminent. Just checking though with the weekly chart, we can see that it is trying to bottom. Right? There was a retest of a prior pivot low that resulted in a successful break to the upside and break of this neckline here. So we have seen some indications of increasing demand, but yet we still are overall in a downtrend on this weekly time frame. So the jury's still out. There's really no clear-cut winner, bulls or bears, and for that reason, it's more likely to be somewhat indecisive, and you're going to want to look for, movement up or down for a day or two, but not something that can really last a substantial or significant duration. Moving on over to the right, we got Aussie US dollar, and again here this pair, as we've discussed, has experienced a rather steep retracement. It's now down into some support and can likely begin to stabilize somewhere within this area. So the downside at this point is limited. However, that's not to suggest it's going to turn around on a dime and begin to move higher this coming week. So we'll have to wait. It's in the right area to be looking for a bottom, but we just have to be patient, waiting for any kind of a signal to suggest that we are going to get some kind of retracement. Looking at the weekly chart, we can see, again, it's coming into some pretty significant support that's held in the past. So we may be able to find some kind of bullish opportunity down in this area. However, with the weakness that brought us to this point, we do have to respect that. And the assumption that I'm willing to make is that any move back up into this area is going to be met with supply and likely results in a lower high where price will then begin to move lower. So we'll have to stay up to date with this pair and see how it evolves. But in the short term, a move up would be healthy, and then we'll see if it puts in a lower high. Moving on over to the right, we've got New Zealand dollar, US dollar, and this pair has experienced just an absolute beautiful breakdown from these previous lows and very fluid move to the downside. So at this point, it's likely that we do get a short-term bounce or maybe even some stabilization, but this was just an absolutely beautiful opportunity to have played this pair to the downside. And on top of that, it's broken weekly support. You can see this weekly low or this double bottom has been violated, which suggests that New Zealand dollar, US dollar has quite a bit more downside left in it. So again, a pause, a retracement on the daily chart would be healthy, but based on what the weekly is telling us, there's a lot more downside to come. So we definitely want to stay bearish overall, but in the short term, we could get a little bit of a bounce. Moving on down to US dollar yen in the bottom right, we can see here kind of the opposite of New Zealand dollar, US dollar, in that just an absolutely gorgeous explosion to the upside. Really nice move higher. And at this point, it is a bit overbought, extended, whatever you want to call it. It's probably going to need to correct a bit, either going sideways or pulling back in. We'll have to see. But in the short term, again, it is a bit overbought, probably going to need to rest, and we'll see what happens. The weekly, though, right, just as I said, an absolutely gorgeous breakout from this range. Look at last week or the week before. Look at how it closed right up on its high. This is the first time that we saw that happen. Every prior time, first of all, wasn't even able to get close to the top of the range, but wasn't even able to close near the high of the range. So this bar signaled the move was coming. And as a result, we get this beautiful move higher. So as I said, definitely a lot of upside potential here. We want to be bullish overall, but in the short term, again, a pullback or consolidation is well within reason to expect. We're just going to have to see which it is. Now, with all of these pairs, using the 4-hour chart, which I'm showing you here now, can really help to clear up any confusion or uncertainty. If US dollar JPY does not break under this 123.60 area, it's probably just going to go sideways before the next move up. If it does break below 123.60, then we're going to see a bit more of a retracement, which would still be healthy. And we'll just wait for the daily chart to set up a nice pullback and higher low area. So the 4-hour chart, the lower time frame, can really help clear up any confusion as to, is it going to pull back? Is it going to consolidate? You have to look for those levels of supply and demand on your smaller time frames. Now moving on over to US dollar Canadian dollar, this pair has moved up on the daily chart above resistance, which we discussed last week, and was likely going to continue moving higher. However, it is into this resistance area that, again, we discussed in last week's video, and sure enough, it really hasn't done much from that point. It's been really chopping around, and that's really no surprise. So we'll see if this begins to pull back. If we break under a prior day's low, we're probably going to see a bit more of a retracement down to, say, this 1.2280 level, and then we'll see if it forms a higher low. The weekly chart is somewhat confused. We had a strong move down. This move down suggested the potential for even greater weakness, but instead, we put in these bottoming tails, which did signal demand was increasing, which is fine. And then we got this very strong rally up into this resistance where we're looking for price to roll over. But this was a pretty strong move up, and the daily chart, as we just showed you, has transitioned back into what potentially becomes an uptrend. So there is a bit of uncertainty here, and like Euro US dollar, I have the same overall opinion or outlook on US dollar Canadian dollar, in that we can see pockets of follow through for maybe 1 to 2 days, but I don't foresee that there's going to be any kind of long lasting weekly kind of follow through like we saw on, say, US dollar yen or even New Zealand dollar US dollar. I don't see that we're going to see a multi-day directional move. Right? So you got to be more nimble and in and out of positions. And finally, pound US dollar. This one has been pulling back. The daily is pulling back, kind of deep. Not really that big a deal, though, overall. It's just pulling back into a demand area. We're starting to see some bottoming tails, and we'll see if it can break above a prior daily bars high and begin to move back to the upside. With this retracement, we do need to be aware of this prior resistance level, right? That is going to add another layer of uncertainty. So if price does begin to move back up, the 1.5523 level could be a sticking point, or that general area. So we do want to be, as I said, aware of it and see what happens. But looking at the weekly chart, this is a really strong move up, and this is the perfect area for a higher low to form on the weekly time frame. So that's what I'll be looking for here in pound US dollar. But again, looking at the daily, it may take a little bit of time. So we may get a move up, a little bit of a lower high, comes back down, forms a higher low, and then moves higher. Right? So that's something that's going to take some time to develop, but that's where the thought process leads us. So over the next week, right, as I said, a move up into this area is reasonable and realistic, and then we'll have to see what happens. Does it go sideways? Does it pull back? Maybe it pushes up even deeper into this area, which is going to be an even stronger sign. So these are the things that we want to be looking for and questioning as we move forward into this coming week. But until the next video, as always, stay disciplined, stay patient, stay confident. If you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And as I said, if you have available time, we've got a great schedule of upcoming free webinars. Make sure to join us for any of those webinars that interest you, and we'll see you soon. Take care.